And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
I am absolutely flabbergasted. Let me repeat that. I bet you haven't heard that word in years.
It's been a while.
If you ever, I am
time.
absolutely flabbergasted. That's the word that fits what happened the other day when one of those rare occasions when I am so tired I want to do nothing but be mesmerized by the TV.
Really?
I turned on one of those odd channels on satellite, the channel 9645 or something. And I'm not sure what channel I'm on, seriously. I just sat there, like a mummy. And there's an ad. And the ad went exactly this way. These are the exact words. There was a child sitting down reading a book. And he says, I like reading because it makes me think for myself. It absolutely blew me over. In fact, I have no idea what the ad was for because it woke me up. I bolted up, ran for pencil and paper to write those words down. When I returned to the TV, the ad or whatever it was off. So I don't know if this was an ad for Ford Mustang or yogurt. I have no idea. But to say those words, folks, to say those words, I enjoy reading because it makes me think. And then at the end, for myself, is the exact antithesis of what television is all about.
That's right.
Now, there's no conspiracy. I'm not going to go to conspiracy that government invented the television so they can then indoctrinate the masses while they watched it and there's a plan. No, I don't think there's anything like that, although the government has done a remarkably excellent job of taking this medium and using it for their own nefarious reasons. And they seized the opportunity to use television to dumb down the masses and to make sure they control the thinking. Now, listen to this ad. I enjoy reading because it makes me think for myself. Now, on the surface, you say, well, Joe, big deal. Could you imagine an America where everyone thought for themselves? It made them think. It made them think, and they thought for themselves. They think by themselves, based on their experience. They actually gave it thought. Now, I have some really terrific friends. Really, I don't deserve them. They're so good. Because I'm a mean guy sometimes. I'm not tolerant.
No.
I really am. I know I'm lovable and great, good looking and all that. I'm a supermodel. I know that. But, I have friends that are really nice and I don't treat them as nicely as they treat me. You know why? Because I'm intolerant. I basically am very intolerant. Because my friends, as good as they are, as wonderful people as they are, as helpful and generous as they are, they do not, for the most part, think for themselves. And my friends, and they're not stupid, they're college educated and all this other stuff. And I have nothing negative to say about them. But if my friends are that way, I can guarantee you your friends are probably that way, and so is the rest of the nation. Now, if the rest of the nation is not thinking, what do we have? Well, we have a monarchy. I really don't want to talk about this democracy stuff. Could we just please put that away? We have no democracy. Let's be honest. We have a bunch of clowns that are being paid off by the corporations to stay in office. They've been in office for 38 years, and yet my job is not yet done.
It's their civic duty, Joe.
Yeah, that's right. They're all multi-gods. No one even knows how rich they are, right? They're on the take for everything, right? And these are the people that are in office representing us in our democratic republic. We have no democratic republic. We have a monarchy. If the president doesn't like what Congress rejects or approves, he writes an executive order. You know, bingo. It's very simple.
Very simple. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wish I could do that at home. You know, my wife won't do this.
Yeah,
I'll write an executive. Honey, here's an executive order. You know where that executive order would go. Well, anyway, so we have these people. We have people generally not thinking for themselves, not only here but around the world. Now, the sad part, the really super sad part, is the fact that those countries that don't have television think for themselves. Do you think those Mujahideen, I guess, is it not help me out? Is it Mujahideen in Afghanistan? Are they? Or I got the wrong place? You know. Anyway, in Afghanistan, they don't have. You know why they don't have any television? Not that they don't like television. They don't even have electricity.
They don't want the people to be driven by it.
No, they have no electricity. We're going to plug it into the sand, the rocks.
Yeah.
You know, they
Solar.
don't. And yet, if you look at them, they've had a central government in Afghanistan now for millennium. And guess what? Never been successful. Because you have people on the outskirts saying, no, this is our state. This is our section of the country. This is our beliefs. You know, sorry, central government, we're not buying into it. And for hundreds of years, they've been unsuccessful. I can guarantee you, I want to bet big money. And someone called me at 855-866-1170. I'll make a bet with you. We'll have a banker take the money in escrow. This is how short. Once Afghanistan gets electrified up in the hills, right, and everyone gets a TV, Afghanistan will be just like the United States. A bunch of dumb people watching dumb programs doing exactly what their monarch says. Now, that's crazy. I mean, I know, but this guy's crazy. Yeah, I listen to Joe Christian because he's a crazy man. Yeah, he talks about those crazy Mujahideen. What the hell is he talking about? Well, you better wake up. Because all the crazy crap that I talk about is the stuff that you should be thinking about. And I'm tired of thinking about it. It doesn't make for good blood pressure. Let me tell you something. It really doesn't. You know, this is the only job that listen, I own 3 companies, right? And I have problems with companies, trucks, employees, all that stuff. This job, all my job, 3 companies pale in comparison to the emotional strain that I go through for this program. And I mean that, so help me God. Because every day, what am I exposed to? People listening to the radio, listening to television. And now, because we can't think, we all wait. We're not like, believe it or not, I think I'd be kind of neat to be in Afghanistan. Give me my AK-47, by the way. And by the way, Jim, I want the NATO round. I want the 7.62-39, okay?
Yeah.
Put me out there, you know? I mean, at least I would have a sense of purpose. Without this program, let me be honest with you. I mean, aside from my wife, which gives me a sense of purpose, and I mean that. I mean, in all sincerity, right? Because, I mean, she, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. But if it wasn't for this program, even though I'm an owner of 3 businesses, I've had no sense of purpose. And I mean that sincerely. It keeps me busy. 24 hours a day keeps me busy. But I would have no sense of purpose. This program gives me a sense of, it may kill me, but it gives me a sense of purpose. I will die with purpose. Now, here's the problem. Now that we watch television, when something happens anywhere, it could be in San Diego, it could be in Montana, it could be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. What do? We turn on the television and wait. We wait for the president to say something about it because we cannot venture our own opinion because we're just not qualified to do it. We don't even know how to make an opinion because we do not know how to think critically, because we do not know. Folks, here it comes again. Think for ourselves. And I find it maddening that I have friends and relatives, by the way, that cannot think for themselves. They actually have said this to me, like, well, I don't know. Well, tonight I'm going to watch the news. I think the president's going to make an announcement. What is he going to say? Someone gets an accident, something happens, an explosion, whatever it is, somewhere. thousands of miles away from Washington, D.C. He has something to say about it. And then we say, oh, now we know where we stand. I think we should be not less like the rebels in Afghanistan. We as Americans should be more like the rebels in Afghanistan. We should be more like the rebels in Afghanistan. Think about that, folks. That should hurt. I should get a lot of hate mail for that.
A lot of calls, too.
Listen, I mean, 855-866-1170.
I don't know why they don't call you.
I'm surprised that we're not lit up. Well, you know why? Because everyone's they're listening to me driving, and there's probably 45 accidents on the road right now, and I'm going to be held personally responsible. No, really. But I want you to think about, at one point, we're going to go to break for a second, all right, in just a couple of minutes. But why does the government, if the government was for you, for us, why wouldn't they encourage people to own weapons and make us a partner with them against the war on terror? Think about that. I want you to think. I know it's going to hurt, and your nose will probably bleed. If, in fact, there was a war on terror, if, in fact, we had a government, which we do not have, right, they would say, hey, guys, listen, there's only so much we can do. You guys have weapons. Buy as much as you can. In fact, we're going to give you government discounts if you buy ammo. But no, it's the opposite. You ever think of that? Oh, because they care about us and they want to take the guns away because they want to make it safe. No, it is not. Think for yourself. It's all because you are subjects. That's all you are. You are a means to an end. And very dispensable. Are we going to break now? I need some coffee to calm down. Let's go to break.
Less than 3% of you people read books. Less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. So if you want the truth, go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniac.
All right, let's take a call from Johnny. Johnny's been driving from between Tulsa and Bristow. Johnny, my wife and I actually bike from Tulsa to Bristow when we have time. Would you believe that? We bicycle there. How you doing, and what's on your mind?
I'm doing good, and I do believe you bicycle that far because bicyclists, they don't call themselves bicyclists. They call themselves cyclists, right?
I'm also a biker, so I'm a biker too. I ride a G650, but we also bicycle. What's on your mind, Johnny?
Well, Joe, I heard you going on a tangent there, and I stay on one. I just can't understand the whole way of thinking of so many people in the country and the division that's being made and this president who seems bent on creating an atmosphere of division and especially racial division and class division. And I'm a black man. I want to say that because not every black person is on the Obama side, but I'm one that works. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I've got kids in college. I'm trying to do the best I can. And it is very hurtful and distressing to me when I try to explain to my friends, who are mostly black, that this is a man that does not care about our economic standards. He doesn't care anything about our betterment of life. They're not even aware of the things that are being done. They don't care to educate themselves on what's being done. All they care about, seemingly, is what he says. So when things go bad, even though it's his decisions on it, his policies that make it so, he can just get up and say it's still Bush's fault or the Republicans did this, and they will not research. And I'm talking about intelligent people, college-educated, bachelor's, master's degrees, and they will not research. They just take his word for it, and that's enough. And it's just sickening.
I could not agree with you more. To tell you where I'm coming from, I'm from Harlem, New York, okay? Now, that's not called the white capital of the world, I can tell you that, right? I sang doo-wop. No, seriously, I want you to know where I'm coming from. I'm not being facetious. I sang doo-wop back in the 50s, and I had the only, and I mean the only, fully integrated singing group. Our second tenor was Carlos Ramirez, and I tell you, I wish I could see him today. He was our second tenor. Freddie was our lead. He sang 100 Pounds of Clay better than the original, the Skyliners. Believe me, so I'm with you. So I'm not one of these guys that are fake, like, I don't believe in racial this. I proved it a long time ago, let me tell you. Now, I agree with you 100%. Now, there's one thing I want to add to what you've just said, is that we're blaming Obama for this, and the blame belongs there. I don't take that away at all. But let me tell you something. Every president does the same thing. What they do is they divide and conquer, divide and conquer. They all do it in different ways. So one group is happy during this 4 years, then we get a change in presidents, and the other group is happy in those 4 years, and then the division gets wider and wider and wider. You see, there's no unanimity. There's no people getting together saying, hey, we got to think this thing through. We've been, I'm 40 or 50 years old, 60 years old. I've been seeing this been going on left, right, Republican, Democrat. And guess what? It only gets worse. It's time to drop out of the system.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's unfortunate.
Can I share one more thing with you?
Sure, Johnny, go ahead.
I am a conservative, and one thing that frustrates me beyond measure about those who call themselves conservatives, they have a brand that they're trying to portray, and they're trying to operate within a system rather than really trying to learn what it takes to get out there and make it happen with minorities. And so by being that way, it makes a lot of minorities feel that they're being excluded when that isn't the case. But, the policies of real conservatives are helpful to everybody, from minorities to the majority, from the low income to the high income.
Absolutely, I agree.
However, because of the way they do things, and I won't call a name, but I had a friend that was running for office as one of our United States congressmen here, and he asked me to come to his watch party, if you will. Yeah. So I go, and I'm there, and he's not prejudiced at all. However, there's not one black person at the party. Okay, I'm the only one there.
Yeah, all right,
okay?
All right, yeah.
All right. So when black people see such things, it makes them feel like, okay, this is what they are. They're exclusionists. At the very least, they're exclusionists, and maybe they're racist. So, and then they're not getting into the things I've tried to explain to my conservative friends who are in politics. Look, explain things as they are and tell the truth, and stop being so afraid that somebody's going to call you a racist. Put a pie chart up and show the difference of how things have been under conservative administrations and how they are under Democratic administrations. Prove the point by the government statistics that are in existence right now.
Right.
But they refuse to do that. They operate within a specific system, and if it doesn't work, they say, well, too bad.
Yeah, it all goes back to this belief system whereby we're waiting for the government to tell us what's right or wrong. And if they say, hey, this is the right way to do it, we're saying, yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, it's a mind control thing. It's a mindset, and it's almost nearly impossible to break. Johnny, we have to go on this program. I want to thank you very much for calling in. And for calling in today, I'd like for you to send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com, and with a mailing address and a T-shirt size. I want to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt free of charge. My compliments. Fair enough?
Will do.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling in. You take care now. I like that caller. I mean, at least he takes a stance. Then we can talk about the minutia of what he just said. But I agree with him in principle. He talked about even people with master's degrees. Forget master's degrees. You want to hear the real numbnuts? Speak to someone with a Ph.D.
Yeah,
oh, my God. First of all, they think they know everything because they got a Ph.D. That, to me, is piled higher and deeper. That's all that means. Ph.D., piled higher and deeper. It doesn't mean crap to me. I think the most idiotic, illogical, hollow people I've met in my life have PhDs, and they're so smug about it, it's really difficult even to be in the same room with them. You know, I go to a party, I'd rather sit and have a smoke in the bathroom, you know, than hang around with these guys. You know, I want to tag on to what I was saying in the first part of the program. You see, TV versus, you know, reading, right? If you go from, if you start thinking, what happens? You start questioning. I went to a meeting this morning, and there was the conversation was about thinking. It wasn't about thinking, but I don't want to go through the topic because that's immaterial. But we had to think. Everyone had to think through the process, and there was no fighting, no cursing, swearing, or no one got mad or anything like that. But there were 2 points of view. But people were really thinking. See, when you think, you start to question. And I was the person, and this other gentleman with me. In fact, he's here in the studio right now. You know, I call him Billy 409. He's a racer, you know. But you know, he was in the same camp that I was in, and we kept on questioning. Now, the person wasn't angry, but I don't think anyone has ever questioned him before this way. You see, so from when we start thinking, we start questioning. When we start questioning, something magical happens. We go into an aura. Listen carefully, folks, and I want you to remember this. I want you to say this, and in fact, tomorrow I want you to have like a mantra, like that. Your wife may think you're crazy, or your husband may think you're, but do it anyway. You go into an aura of non-acceptance. Non-acceptance. You hear something, oh, buy Palmolive soap, it's the best in the world, right? Non-acceptance. I don't think so. Anything that's said, non-acceptance. In other words, you have to understand, what is the person saying? We don't know what people are saying. You know why? Because we're too busy saying the stupid word awesome. Everything's awesome, right? So we don't know what people are saying. We don't listen to what people are saying.
Awesome! Awesome! Awesome!
You know, I never asked them to do that, folks. They're fired. All of them are going to be fired this afternoon. You know, so if we go from non-acceptance, and then we make this big, giant leap to skepticism. And if I had to categorize myself one way, with one word, I'm a skeptic. Don't say, well, this happens because of this. How do you know that? Was it prove it? I want to know. I don't want to believe. I keep on telling people. I've said this on my station for so long now that I'm tired of saying it. I believe in nothing. I believe in absolutely nothing. In fact, I said that one time at a meeting. And a person raised his hand, was giving a speech. He says, well, Mr. Cristiano, I beg to differ with you. I begged him. I said, please, let me beg you not to beg. He got really mad. But no, seriously. And he said, you say you don't believe in anything. Are you telling me you do not believe that your wife loves you? I said, exactly what I'm saying. Exactly. I'm glad you said that. He says, well, what kind of relationship do you have? I said, you don't understand. If I believed that my wife loved me, I would be right now with my attorney filing for divorce. He was shocked. I said, you see, I do not believe that my wife loves me. I know that my wife loves me after decades and what she has done for me, not day by day or week by week, but minute by minute, hour by hour. Proves to me beyond a shadow of a doubt, empirically proves to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that she loves me. If I believe she loved me, I would be saying, I don't know. You see, I'm a skeptic. So you go from non-acceptance to skepticism, and then from skepticism, you arrive at this plateau of independence. And you realize that you, in fact, are totally independent. And that anyone who tries to control anything that you do is someone that should be questioned. It is so difficult to understand, but you have to go from the thinking. You have to think first. But you can't think if you're watching The Voice on television or Dancing with the Stars on television all day long. Or your favorite comedy. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching a program once in a while. I watch the muscle cars race. I mean, that's what I do, you know. But you go from thinking to questioning. But you have to think first, then to question. Then from questioning to non-acceptance. From non-acceptance to skepticism. From skepticism, you go to independence. And you, too, could understand why the Mojahedin in Afghanistan are doing what they're doing. And not give the stupid stuff that the reason why they hate us because of our freedom. Then you say, boy, that was stupid. And I'm embarrassed. I am absolutely embarrassed that I even said that once in my life. I hope we understand each other. I hope those words can sink in. We have legislation, we have regulation, which makes us felons. That was an ad right before this program. Think about that. With legislation and regulation, I don't care what it is, it makes you a felon because you and everyone in your family, including your wife and your mother, your grandfather, they're all felons because we've all broken the law because of all the legislation and regulations. Let's go to break. Thank you. And welcome back to the University of Logic, better known as Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversations. We have Lloyd on the phone. Lloyd from Henrietta, the crossroads of Oklahoma. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, Joe.
Good. I'm glad you called. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been doing a whole lot of reading like you suggest, and I've been thinking for myself, and I've come to the conclusion, and I might add, an awesome conclusion.
I won't play that again, Lloyd. Joe will get mad at me.
Anyway, I've come to this conclusion that our enemies do hate us for our freedoms. You know how I arrived at that?
Okay.
Our enemies, with the State Secrets Act, they've taken away part of the First Amendment from whistleblowers. They've taken away our Fourth Amendment right to be safe and secure in our persons and our effects with the Patriot Act. Our enemies have taken away our Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment with the NDAA and the torture bill.
That's right, yeah.
So that we can be tortured to confess against ourselves. We don't have a right to a trial by jury and to face our accusers. And with the Eighth Amendment, of course, we don't have the right to not be the right to let me get here. Excessive bails, fines, and cruel and unusual punishments. So we do have some people that hate us for our freedoms, and they've been enacting this legislation against us. So I have to disagree with you wholeheartedly.
I love it, Lloyd. That is perfect. That is perfect. I'm going to send you $1 million worth of Zimbabwe of currency in the mail for what you just said. You're absolutely correct. Our enemies do hate our freedom. I take it all back. Unfortunately, my focus was on our quote enemies over our 7,000 miles away. We have met our enemies, and they are whom? Us, right? Right?
That's the way I see it.
Absolutely, Lloyd. That is perfect. I want to thank you so much. And you're always welcome to call because every time you do, you bring up a point or an angle that I haven't thought of, and you've added a lot to this program. I certainly do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. He's absolutely correct. We got another ringy-dingy here, right? Okay, but he's absolutely correct in what he's saying. Where's the problem? The problem's with us. We let these clowns take our freedom away. We go, oh, geez, now we're safe. All right. You want me to pick up on that line? Let's see. Oh, we're just checking the line first. Hold on, folks. Okay, here we go. Caller, you're on the line. Your first name and where you're calling from, please. And thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ.
Hey, Joe. This
Hi.
is Patty from Tulsa.
Patty from Tulsa. Hi. Glad to hear from you.
Good. Hey, first, I just want to say your show is awesome. And secondly, I want to say...
I tell you, they get me all the time. But go ahead, Patty.
No. There just isn't a better word. Stupendous, no. Awesome, yeah. No. Now, to get serious.
Okay.
I've been trying to think, what can I do to show my independence?
Okay.
Or to show that I'm a thinker. I'm thinking for myself. And independence is the key word. This year, unfortunately, it was right after the elections, but I changed my party affiliation to independent.
Okay.
And I thought, if nothing else, if enough people did that, they would be saying, okay, we're just tired of this football game going on with Democrats, Republicans, this, that, going back and forth. I'm sick of it. We need a united government if we're going to have one that works. So I went independent. I don't know. Have you got other ideas? Would it be better if I wrote a letter to my congressman What do we do? What do we do?
You'd be better off sending me a love letter than sending a letter to your congressman. I mean, you can, but it goes into the big pile where they have these kids that they get from school, and they put it in, and they send them a J45 letter saying thank you, and our congressman will be reviewing this carefully. You know, it's not going anywhere. So I wouldn't waste my time. Your time. The only thing that we have that is critical among all of us is our time, right? So if we waste our time, we're wasting our most precious resource. Don't do that. I do applaud you, though, for registering as independents. My wife and I are independent, you know. So obviously you make a good point, and I really applaud you bringing that up, in that if we all became independent when the Republican or Democrat primaries came up, you know, no one would show up. And that would be wonderful.
Right.
That would be a show of force. But that would require for everyone to start thinking, questioning, becoming a skeptic, and declaring their independence. You have just declared your independence. Hurrah for you. Do you have a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt?
Oh, okay.
Do you have a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt?
Do I have one? No.
Right. Well, I'd like for you to send me an email with a mailing address and a T-shirt size, and I'd love for you to walk around with a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt, and that will help display your independence. How about that?
Okay, I'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye. That was a great call. She made an excellent point, didn't she? She said, look, I'm going to declare my independence. I'm not going to register with one of those clown parties.
Exactly.
Right? I like that. I applaud that. You know, it's all my, you know, Nero fiddled while Rome burned.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that? You know,
I don't remember, but I heard it,
we have spectator acts of violence always embolden those in power. We know that. You know, so every time we have the Boston bombing, and by the way, when we get back from the break, I want to talk about the Boston. I just want to take one crack at that. And then we're gratified that the government is there to protect us, even at our own expense. You know, and then what we do is we disassociate ourselves from ourselves. So you see, what we do is we abdicate who we are, and we give ourselves to someone else. We become, in fact, slaves. We need to unplug from the government. And when people say, but America is the best country in the world, you know, are they fundamental? Do they know what they're talking about? When they say that, what are they saying? They don't know. When do we go to? Wait for a minute. Let me bring something up. I'm again, while I was watching, you think I sit by the TV set all day long, but again, I was watching television. The drag racing show, and then they had not a break, but after the I think it was either Pink's or what's the other one where you guess the time. Pastime. That's my favorite program. I love when they show the big V8 engines with the 1,150 cubic CFM carburetors and stuff like that. I just love that stuff. Anyway, but right afterwards, they had I guess it was a documentary type thing of how they make floor mats. Sounds silly, right? That sounds boring. Floor mats.
Yeah.
Well, they toured this factory that made floor mats. And it sounds like the most boring thing in the world. I was absolutely glued to the TV set. They had machines there that were very, very large in these large rooms that were clinically clean. I'm not kidding you. You could not find a surgical operating room that is as clean as these places. And what they would do is they would pour this compound, and then it would be heated, and these machines would apply millions of pounds of pressure. And they showed stage by stage by stage. They made floor mats and truck liners. It was one of the most fascinating tours of a factory. Now, I'm in factories all the time. I used to be. I have an industrial health testing company. I've been in every factory in Oklahoma and most of Arkansas and Lower Kansas. But this was just a remarkable place. Each one of those machines must be million-dollar machines. Now, here was the interesting part. This manufacturer was one of the nation's largest manufacturers of floor mats and bed liners. They had this beautiful factory only a handful of employees. A handful of employees. You know, we say we want our jobs back. You know, we ship them to China. Well, in China, they're doing all this by hand. Here we had a handful of employees making, and oh, by the tolerances were to the 1/10,000th of an inch, 1/10,000th of an inch. 1/10,000th of an inch. That's what the tolerances were. Everything literally came out perfect every single time. It required qualified people to work those machines, but it also required qualified people, trained people, educated people to build the machines. That's where our productivity is, folks. And when we come back, are we on for break now again? When we come back from break, I want to continue that conversation. Let's go.
Now you kids are probably saying to yourselves, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the world by the tail and wrap it around and pull it down and put it in my pocket. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably going to find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat. You're going to end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
I think living in a van down by the river starts to sound real good to me right now. I'll tell you.
It does, Joe.
But you know, that's a great segue because what I was just talking about. You know, we've been screaming that we got to get a president that'll get them jobs back here from China. You know, we got to get them people back. All those people like all our jobs. Well, you know what kind of jobs went to China? Are those jobs where you're standing? And let me tell you, folks, believe me, for 20 years, I went to these factories and I had to do noise surveys standing by these people for hours where they performed the most monotonous, repetitive jobs that, in fact, not that it requires no education, that would disqualify you to do this job if you have an education. Because if you have any brain cell working, you go stark raving mad within 5 minutes. Those are the jobs that went to China. And let me tell you what, it's so interesting. I went to a manufacturing plant, one of the biggest manufacturing plants in the United States that make hearing aid circuits. I mean, we are talking miniature stuff. Now, they don't make their circuits by hand, obviously. They're done in these control rooms that are, you know, where people wearing all sorts of masks and whatever and temperature control. But then there are people who are in a sort of an assembly line actually putting all these parts together. They're joining all the... And when I went there, I noticed that they were all Southeast Asian. They're all Asian. And I asked, in fact, I know the owner of the guy, the place, and he said, I said, well, how come you don't have any? They're all Asian. He said, because Asians are smaller stature. He said they have typically very thin fingers. They're very nimble, and they can handle the circuitry. He says, literally, Americans, Italians, Irish, Germans, we have difficulty handling those parts. And he says it's not a prejudice. He says they're really good at that. You see, well, there's a time and a place for everything that we do. But that one thing that there is no time and place for is standing by a stupid assembly line, doing the same repetitive thing 100 times an hour, hour after hour, week after week. And then, if business gets good, doing it in overtime. Those are the jobs that went to China. Let me get back to that factory that made the bed liners and the floor mats, right? They had they had skilled or semi-skilled people. I'm not sure what the skill is to run those machines, but I'm sure you just can't run off the street. You have to really learn to think, right? But there were very few. I'll bet you there wasn't a dozen people in the entire factory, at least from what I saw, right? Now, if we want to be, and by the way, we are still the most productive country in the world, by the way. We are the most productive country in the world. And one reason is we took all those manufacturing jobs where people had to do the same repetitive thing over. We put them someplace else where they were done more effectively. We didn't do it very effectively, all right? So now the people, we buy these machines to make these products. Someone has to build the machines. Now, here's the sad part. The sad part is that the technical people that are required to design and make these machines and manufacture them, are unavailable in the United States. And we have to either export that or we have to import people from India or from China who are highly educated, bring them in on the scientific end, bring them in to our American companies to design the machines and have them manufactured. So we're losing on both ends. Now, why? Look at the education system. You see, once you see this whole system and the way it's not working, you realize it's not Republican versus Democrat, or it's conservative against progressive and this and that. It's all government interference. Government interference in our school system, making our kids dumber and dumber. And I can go on for hours. I know something about the school system and how poorly we are doing. And we keep on, and we're getting worse. We don't have people who are qualified even when they get a college education, because our college education has really dumbed down by virtue of the fact that our government said more people should have an undergraduate degree, pumping money in, putting people in debt, getting degrees of worthlessness, coming out and never learning to think. See, the government cannot afford to have a populace of people, highly educated populace, who think. Because if they do, the government's over. The government is toast, as they say in the old mafia days. You know, the guys are toast, you know. No, really, the government's over. People wouldn't vote for them. You have a highly educated populace. It is over for them. Their ball game is over because they become thinkers. But we are getting thinkers, folks, from overseas to make stuff here. Stuff that doesn't require thinking at all is gone. And so we have this large, what we call structural unemployment. People without an education, people who are unskilled, are unemployed. And that group is getting larger and larger and larger. And please, don't quote these unemployment numbers to me. It really hacks me off. Because these numbers are the way they calculate these numbers change depending on the government, you know, how they want them to be presented. The fact is that we have 50% unemployment in areas of what we call teenagers of color. 50% unemployment because they went to rotten schools, rotten public school systems. And yet, we want to dedicate more money to our rotten school systems. And now they're unemployed, and they will remain unemployed. Oh, yeah, the people who get the real good degrees, yeah, they get good jobs, and they make a hell of a lot of money. And the other groups making a hell of a lot of money are people in Washington. You ever notice when they interview people in Washington, anyone, they're always dressed immaculately. They're in a place that looks like a palatial mansion. These people are living it up at our expense. Just think, a person who makes $44,000 a year in the private sector, that same person in government makes $74,000 with better benefits. So you have a person making less money, supporting the person making twice as much money, who produces nothing. And we don't have an outrage. Now, the last thing I want to talk, we only have a couple of minutes, don't we?
Yeah, about 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have to get it because I wanted to get this last week and I never got there.
Go ahead.
All right. I want to weigh on the Boston Marathon bombing. I did a little bit the last week, but I didn't get to this part. One aspect of the dialogue that is always missing, whether it be from the World Trade Center bombing back in the when was it the first one? 1993, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 1993.
Yeah, up to the 9/11, all of them. Is no one actually asks why. You see, there is an element of revenge. But we don't want to say that. We don't want to say these people were revengeous. Because once revenge, there's not such a word, is there? Revengeous? What is the word?
You made it up there. There is now.
It makes sense. Go on.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. I'm sorry. I just named. You see, because once the government says this was an act of revenge, that means the government has to then identify why are they engaging in an act of revenge. Well, because they're tired. Let me give you just one statistic. I wrote this down. This is a couple of years ago. I did a program on this, and here it is. Pentagon Basic Structure Report 2008. Sorry, it's old, but the numbers are bigger today. We have 761 military sites overseas. Let me repeat that. 761 military bases. Sites. Isn't that pretty? We have sites with flowers, all sorts of nice things, windmills, movie theaters. No, they're bases. 761 in 151 foreign countries. Well, geez, there's only 192 sort of major countries, and that 190 includes the Vatican. And the number of personnel, over 500,000 military personnel overseas on these sites. And what do you think they're doing?
Intimidating.
Well, they're propping up dictators, assuring that dictator is loyal to us at the expense of the people, and they are so frustrated because they're so poor, because the richer, the power brokers in these countries are getting richer and richer and richer. They're getting arms and jets and whatever. The people have nothing. And that's exactly where we are going. You have the rich in Washington, the power brokers in Washington, the bankers in Washington. It's all the same place, all the same people. It's one group, and they're getting richer, and we are getting poorer. We are getting just like them. But we can't say it's revenge, that the people are so frustrated, they don't have any, there's no hope. And when people lose hope, Gerald Celente said, when people lose everything, and they have nothing else to lose, they lose it. Well, you know what the Boston Marathon bombing was, folks? The people who did that had nothing else to lose, and they lost it. And we are complicit in that. And that's what you won't hear on mainstream media. Do you think if we were not that way, they would be that way? They would have done what they did? I think not. Well, how much time? Are we over altogether, right? Well, we're over. Thank you very much, and join us next week on Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Thank you for listening.